Look at us in our
matching outfits.
turtlenecks.
It's like I have hearts on my sleeve.
Oh, I liked your sweater that you had on when you were shopping.
Oh, my love sweater?
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, I totally got it. Oh, look here. Thank you. That was really nice. I got it at Old Navy. It was like $15 because it was like 60% off. And I happened to just be walking through the store and found it. And it feels like a sweatshirt, but looks like a sweater.
It's super cute. I was in the grocery store yesterday. I think we've started, by the way.
Welcome to the Empty Nest Happy Hour podcast, where it's always happy hour because the nest is empty.
Relax those shoulders, loosen that grip, pour yourself a drink. It's time for the Empty Nest Happy Hour, a hilarious podcast exploring midlife, parenting, empty nesting, women's rights, pop culture, whatever we can think of. We're going to talk about it here. And you don't have to be a middle-aged empty nester lady like us to join this happy hour. Whoever you are and whatever's happening in your life, thank you for being part of our community and taking a little break to laugh through it with us. And as we always tell you, everything we say here is our truth now. We're not experts on anything, but we have a lot to say about everything.
And you can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Empty Nest Happy Hour. Our website is emptynesthappyhour.com, and our email is info@emptynesthappyhour.com. So you can find us wherever you feel like Empty Nest Happy Hour.
Whenever you pick up your phone and you want something to do,
you know where to find us.
That's right. We have a wide variety of ways to get in touch with us. So I'm Amy.
And I'm Danielle.
And what are we drinking today, Danielle?
Well, again, we're going to stick to the Valentine's Day theme. And we have a cocktail called the Velvet Kiss, which is 2 ounces of bourbon or vodka, 1 ounce of cream de cacao. I think that's how you say it. 1 ounce of raspberry puree, a half an ounce of lemon juice, a half an ounce of simple syrup, and then you put a little dark chocolate shavings or a raspberry on the top for garnish. So it's quite delightful.
It is delightful. I'm a little worried that I'm going to have a dark chocolate shaving mustache, but it is a lovely little, very, very romantic.
Very romantic. It's quite sexy, right? We had the sexy martini last week and the Velvet Kiss. And then I think Valentine's Day will be over and I don't know, maybe we'll start transitioning to spring earlier than I don't know
Sure.
what we're going to do. Yeah. We'll see what the weather's like and go from that.
Yeah, this week I took the dog for a walk on Tuesday without a coat, and today it's like freezing rain and it's terrible here. But
Yep.
That's the weather update from here in Central Illinois.
That's awesome.
What are we going to talk about this week, Danielle?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we asked for random advice on our Facebook group as a way to just kind of bring the conversation from the podcast to the internet and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we asked for friends' advice. We shared it on our personal pages, and I thought we would just hit a couple of fun ones.
I can't wait.
Just to bring the two merging of our communities together. So here I have 4 that I picked out. So our friend Carolyn in the UK gave us 2 and they were great.
UK Carolyn.
Yeah. With the accent. I'm not going to do the accent, but you can do it.
Carolyn posts some of the most delicious looking meals. She's quite a chef.
Yes. And we got an email from Carolyn. She did this squat and push-up challenge in January and she's killing it. So
wow.
Good
Go
for Carolyn. Okay, so her advice, her first one was, when nothing is certain, anything is possible. I thought that was very good, right? So don't make sure that everything is always the same. And then 99% of the things you worry about never happen.
Oh, yes.
Which is actually kind of fitting for some of the discussion we're going to have today. But our friend Pam Lamp sent us her book, actually.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
her book has the title, I feel like, is good advice. And it is Do the Next New Thing, Embrace Uncertainty, and Discover Purpose, Happiness, and Friendship.
Ooh, that's super important for people this is the thing that I've heard recently. A lot of people say, I was watching, what is that show with those people in Arkansas who fix up houses? Not Chip and JoJo, the other ones. Fixer to Fabulous or whatever. They say in this season of life a lot.
Oh, I like that. We are
Yeah.
in a season of
In
life,
this season
aren't
of
we?
life. That's good. A good thing to know.
Yeah. Our friend Jen said, if you wouldn't take advice from them, don't take criticism from them.
Ooh.
Good. It reminds me of the Eleanor Roosevelt quote that is, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent,
Yes.
but with updated language.
Yes.
It's a really good
Wow.
one. So if you're not going to take advice from them, don't listen to their criticism. That's a really good life
That
lesson.
is really good.
And then lastly, from another Amy that we don't know, who is a listener.
But she is between the ages of 58 and 50 because all the Amy's are.
Exactly. This was my favorite one. Never trust a person who microwaves fish at work.
Ew.
Which I don't know if I've ever experienced, but yeah, that is good advice.
I used to work in an organization which had, we probably had 50 to 100 employees in the office. And we had a full kitchen in our office building. And we had a woman who would bring in a roast so that she could cook it in the oven so that it would be ready when she went home for dinner.
That's interesting.
And so the whole building smelled like roast, but she didn't share it.
So then you go home and you smell like roast.
Right.
And you've smelled it all day. And now
Right.
you're hungry.
Right.
And there's no roast for you.
She would literally come in like at least once a week and cook her entire like family dinner in the office oven.
On one hand, it's
know.
annoying. On the second,
Yeah, it's kind of smart.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Right? That's time management, I guess.
And I went in my break room. It's not really a break room. It's just I don't know, at like 9:30 the other morning, and it stunk of microwave popcorn. And I was like, who's eating like, and it was, you can tell when it's super butter.
Yes.
It was like super butter microwave popcorn at 9:30 in the morning.
Ooh.
Ugh. And that microwave is so nasty
Gross.
because nobody feels like it's their job.
Yes. Oh,
Don't
my
microwave
stomach
fish
is
or cook a
rolled.
roast at work.
No, or make popcorn at 9:30 in the morning in the gross microwave. Anyways, what's your, like, if you just had to come up with something
Oh, good Lord.
advice-wise, that's a hard one to put on the spot with.
One of my biggest advice things when the kids were little, really little, was you don't have to get the closest parking spot to the grocery store. You need the closest parking spot to the cart return.
Exactly.
Not that this is a podcast about grocery carts,
Well,
but apparently it is.
We spend a lot of our life at the grocery store.
And I have a
so-
tip for you, Danielle.
Okay.
If
okay.
you go to the grocery store at like 10 o'clock in the morning, there are plenty of small carts available.
Okay. Except for the whole working thing.
I know. I know.
But that's a good tip.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So
I've been the
think
last couple days, like early in the day, and they're all, because like the guy put them all in there the night before and
Yes.
nobody's, so.
And the people that are going early in the morning are probably getting the big,
Right.
like for the week, because that's
Right.
what we used to do.
Right.
Well-
Welcome to Grocery Carts, our weekly podcast.
Well, I have so many feelings about grocery stores and carts.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so my advice,
Mhm.
kiss your dog goodnight.
Oh,
Every night.
wow.
Maybe, I should say husband, but kiss your dog
You know what?
goodnight.
I meant to, when I was at my office yesterday, to get some googly eyes for you.
Oh. I've gotten sent the googly eyes by so many people. I think Liz sent it to me. My other sister Erica sent it to me. You sent it to Aaron.
I
sent
have
it to
a
me.
googly eye stash of all different shapes and sizes with eyelashes and all kinds of things. I should have brought some. I'll bring some so that you can take some pictures of that one-eyed dog with a googly eye.
Oh, my poor buddy. It's looking so good. His eye's looking so
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm
He's-
glad to hear that.
It's still so scraggly. Anyways, so that's our advice. We're the advice ladies today.
Oh,
Apparently.
yay.
Anyways, should we transition to our next big topic?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. Well,
We have a lot to say here,
it's not as fun.
right? And it's kind of personal
It's very personal.
for both of us.
Yeah, and I think that we flirted with talking about this topic for a while, and I've been a little reluctant to until it sort of hit a crescendo the past couple of weeks. And I think that there's a lot of people that probably fall into what you and I have dealt with, which is children with extreme anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and how, as parents of older children, to navigate this really difficult situation.
Right. You think, oh, they're in high school or oh, they're in college. They can take care of themselves. And I think both of us have experienced that some of our largest parenting challenges have been since they've been in high school and college and
Yeah.
not necessarily all those years before.
Yeah.
And it's maybe harder because they're grown and
Yeah.
it's hard to know how you fit in. So let's talk about it.
Let's get into it, right? It I wrote out my thoughts because I wanted to have a structure for it, but I'm probably going to abandon it, and it's going to be a little bit clunky in
Well,
this conversation.
I'm going to derail your structure.
That's okay.
So
No,
that's
that's the
that's
best
my
part.
job.
So I know I made reference quite a bit last semester when I said the words transitions are really hard
Mhm.
quite a few times. And if you weren't listening before, you do not have to go back. It was my way of just saying my daughter, who is a freshman, really struggled with moving into the dorms and how to navigate this new norm. Um, she's been uh, so for context, she's had massive anxiety since fourth grade. We've dealt with this for years. She's been in therapy, she's on medication. We've done everything. We are involved parents. Everything that you could suggest, we've done. Um, when she went away to school, it's a whole different ballgame. So without having to go back from like fourth grade and the throw up and what we did, we've really struggled with trying to figure out how to deal with her first real experience as an adult
Mhm.
and not living at home,
Mhm.
and how to parent, because there's so many different ways to go about this. So last semester was rough. There were massive panic attacks many nights. Almost every day was tears. Almost every FaceTime was I I I feel like I'm a zombie. That's a word that we heard quite a bit. And when do you come back to them with tough love and say, look, you actually have to figure this out? And when do you want to take them in and say, I'm your safe space?
Mhm.
And that's a really tough navigation when they're supposed to be in this big transition, because it's hard and no one likes the dorms and you
Mhm.
have to make friends. Otherwise, it feels like you're really lost.
Mhm.
And we're still dealing with it. We moved her back into the dorms on Martin Luther King Day, that Monday. On Wednesday, she called after we recorded our podcast and said, I think I need to move home for the semester.
Mhm.
And and then it becomes a very large conversation between me and Rick and her. And we were very careful, and we don't know if we're doing any of it right. Um, so that is sort of where we're currently at. I can tell you, because I want this to be a dialogue, but I'll
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
just tell you where we're at.
Mhm.
We don't want her to move home
Mhm.
because we don't want anxiety to win.
Right.
And that's always been the case with us. It's always going to be hard, but this is just part of
Right.
us helping you navigate as an adult, but we also want to be there for her.
Right.
So we have taken off any restrictions on you cannot come home, or you can only come home at a certain time, or whatever that is. And when she feels that she's about to have a massive panic attack, that she has us
Mhm.
and home as a safe place.
Mhm.
But we wouldn't let her move completely home.
Mhm.
We want her to have a campus location, and if there is a home location, that.
Mhm.
And that's sort of where we're sitting right now. And I I still don't know if it's right or
It's
not.
so hard because you just don't know, and that's parenting you don't know if you're doing the right thing. You never know.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know that you go to your grave knowing whether
Right.
you were a good parent or not. You hope that you were, and you hope that the things that you did helped them and supported them and got them to where they are. And I mean, yeah. So one of my favorite podcasters has a saying, and that is anxiety can ride in the car, but anxiety doesn't get to drive.
That's a good saying.
And I
That's a
think
good
that
saying.
that's a place where people who are dealing with anxiety, so we went through this as well. We
Yeah.
went through this my daughter's freshman year of high school.
Hmm.
She had a very hard time transitioning. And oh my God, if it wasn't for Danielle, I don't know what we would have done. Danielle was the one who drove her to school every morning and convinced her to get out of the car. But she worked through it. And of course, anybody who deals with anxiety still has moments where it
Yeah.
all is too much. But all of I firmly feel that once you're through it, once you've figured it out, all of these things that have happened have made you a stronger person and someone who can deal with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so it sucks when you're going through it. And it obviously sucks for Murphy,
Oh my gosh. I know.
but it sucks for you too,
Yeah.
because it's that thing where every time the phone rings and it's Murphy, you're like, oh no, what is it now?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to not have that just sort of like response of, I don't know what to do here. I just don't know what to do. And I think that from my perspective, the best thing is to have somebody that you can talk to about it. Like,
Yeah.
we have this thing, we both know what this has been like.
Yeah.
And we were in the car the other night and you were like, I'm so tired of talking about it. And I said, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. I'm always going to ask
Yeah.
because I want to
Yes.
know. But if you don't want to talk about it, that I get that. Like,
Yeah.
because it is so much of your thinking all of the time, what's going on with her? What can I do to help her? Am I doing the right things? And I think you're doing the right things.
Thank you.
I know that it's very hard because she may be telling you you're not doing the right things,
Yes.
but also she doesn't necessarily know. You've been through this world, you know how things work and how they're supposed to work. And she, as much as I think there is a place for this is who you are, this is what you're dealing with, and we're going to help you, there's also but you have to do some work yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And this is the hardest part, because when they're in the middle of it, they don't feel like they can see anything
Right.
but panic all the
Right.
time. And that is where the navigation is the most difficult, because
Right.
she's begging for help.
Right.
And you're a little bit like, you actually have to
Right.
make some steps towards this. But I also feel terrible
Right.
for, of course, anybody is.
Right.
I also think that parenting in today is so different than what we also grew up with.
Yeah.
And so I feel this is so dumb saying it out loud. This is why podcasting is actually therapy for us.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. 100%. Thank you for.
Yeah, I know, exactly. There's such judgment about the way parents
Oh, yeah.
and parenting is now too.
Yeah.
Not you or my close friends, but just like societal pressures about what we should do. And it's so at odds with what sometimes we think is best actually for
Right.
our children.
Right.
And how you have to like take all that noise out is really hard.
Right.
Because in her perception of what parents should do is different than what actual parenting is.
Right. Right.
And there's so many mixed messages. And if you go down one path, it's probably not the right thing. You go down
Right.
another path, there's pluses and minuses to everything.
Well,
but
and part of that also is that development stage. They're not adults yet,
no.
and they don't know, but they are in a place where they have a lot of the responsibilities and rights that adults have, and they think they know. And it's really hard. They're both of our girls are really smart girls, and I think
Yeah.
that makes it harder in a way
Yeah.
because they know what they should be doing and how they should be doing, and they look around and see what other people are doing, and it makes them a little bit crazy that they can't engage in the way that other kids are.
100%.
And it's because they're both sensitive girls, and
Mhm.
they're both really empathetic girls.
Yes.
Emma's not as empathetic as she used to be.
Well, that's good.
And yeah,
Because then she can protect herself.
right. And I think that is part of the, I hate to use that word, but the journey that she was on was sort
Yeah.
of like she was a really sensitive, they were both sensitive little girls.
Yes, they were. They were.
And that's wonderful, but they they have to learn how to turn that off and turn it on.
Mhm.
And I think that it's such a hard stage for them to learn all this stuff, but they have to.
They have to, and no matter how much advice you provide or
Right.
how many suggestions you make,
Right.
it's up to them
Right.
to find what works.
Right.
And Lord knows I give as many suggestions as I can think of.
Don't you feel like sometimes, I mean, I know when I was in that space, like I was pulling shit out of my ass
Yeah, all
to
the
get her
time.
to stay in school. Pretend that you are in a movie about going to high school and you're an actress and you are just like living this role and like, whatever I could think of that would help her get through her day. Like
Yes.
yeah.
I'm sending like hype music playlists to
Oh,
her.
yeah.
Just like, here's some fun songs that
Right.
have upbeat tempos.
Right, because you know that if you don't do something, you're
Yeah.
gonna feel like, well, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And yes, you need to be monitoring it and you need to be stepping in where you need to.
Mhm.
But the fact that she is coming to you and
Yeah.
not just like miserable in her dorm by herself and not bringing you into it is a good thing.
Right. It is a good thing because she trusts us to
Right.
be there for her
Right.
and her father too.
Right.
Right. I will give her credit that it's not just one parent over the other. Now,
Right.
Rick definitely goes more towards tough love,
Right.
and I'm a little bit more of the soft side.
Right.
And so in the middle is where we typically are a little bit better. I think I could probably be a little bit more on the tough
side.
love.
Well, and there are times, I know this and you know this, that you just have to say, this cannot be my problem today.
Yeah.
Rick, you're in charge.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I'm so grateful that I have
Yeah.
a partner that I can do
Yeah.
that with and
Yeah.
to step away from it because it's really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for her. And she's taken a lot of steps. She found a new therapist this year. She's constantly monitoring her medications and she's doing all the right things. She just hasn't found her place
Right.
yet.
Right.
Um,
And I mean, let's think about this. Even if you didn't have a, a struggle with anxiety, this is such a huge thing that we
Exactly.
expect these people that, we know their brains are not fully formed yet. They
Yeah.
are not really adults. We're putting a lot of pressure on them, not just the academic pressure, the social pressure. Oh, we're going to drop you off in a building with a whole bunch of people you don't know. You've only ever slept in your own bed in your own room for your entire life, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you've gone to some slumber parties here and there, but like, here you go. Make friends.
Yep.
And for their whole lives, half of their friends were friends that we forced on them.
That's right. Because we were friends with the parents.
Right. So it's just so much. And then let's just throw all of this. Oh, and if you don't do well, it impacts the rest of your life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's a thing that I think there's a lot of pressure on. And from my perspective, I can share a little bit of my perspective. After my third year of college, I was cordially invited not to come back
Mhm.
because I'd had a lot of fun and it was, I wasn't doing that well. And my parents, and I think about this now as the parent of a college student, holy shit, my kid is coming back. What? This is not what I planned,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And so I went home after I think it was my third year. Yeah. And I lived at home for a year, and my parents found me a job, and we lived in a small town, so everybody knew that Amy wasn't going to college anymore. And but it all worked out.
Yes. And it always does. It always does work out. Well, yes,
Right.
we're going to say
Right.
for our instances, it's
Right.
going to work out. But there's a lot more, we like to say empty nesting is so much fun, but there's a lot that
There's
goes into
right.
it. And you coming home,
And
I came home,
right.
right? I transferred schools. It's bigger, and it's ups and downs and changes, and
Yeah. And it's a journey. It doesn't have to be like, I think we have this idea that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then we're going to be done, and we're just going to, whatever. That's not the way it works. It's
no,
like we're human beings.
yep,
We're not cookie cutter. We're all going to do this the same way. Everybody has their own rhythm and their own path, and we just have to be sort of open to whatever's going to happen. And for my, you know, God forbid either of my children should ever come home from college,
right. It could happen in a few
it
months.
could happen. Well, yeah, it is going to happen. But like because of the experience that I had, the way my parents worked with me through it, you know what? If it happens, it happens. It's not the end of the
No,
world.
no.
It's absolutely not the end of the world. And I think that what Murphy's going through is so hard, and it's so hard for you, but it will work itself out, hopefully.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, if it means that there's a different path that she takes, that's okay too.
Yeah. No, that's y- incredibly good advice. You're exactly right. And it doesn't fit the norm, but
Mhm.
who says what the norm is?
Right. I get
Everybody
tired of
has,
the norm.
yeah, a
If
different.
everybody did the norm, how boring would we be?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm fascinating because it took me 7 years to get through undergrad.
And now, right,
And
you're
now
on
I
a tenure
frickin'
track.
teach. I'm a tenure track college professor now. If you had told me that when I was 21 dropping out of college, I would have been like, "No freaking way." I was a much better grad student than undergrad, and that's just sort of maturity. Like,
Yeah.
I was doing all the social stuff when I was in college. I
Yeah.
wasn't really interested in the academic, and then by the time I was 40 years old and had 2 kids, I was like, "Oh my god, give me the academic because I can't do this other stuff anymore." So, it'll all be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we wanted to talk about this, and we talked quite a because we both dealt with this, that it is something that I think a lot of us who listen, anxiety with older kids is still part of our lives, and we're
Yes.
still trying to parent it.
Yeah.
And if we can share and have our own therapy sessions
Yeah.
here too, I hope that you don't feel alone, and
Right.
you're as parents, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to find my own path too in this, what did you say earlier? This new stage of life,
Season.
season of life,
Yeah.
while simultaneously
Right.
um, doing adult kid anxiety parenting.
Right.
And that is something that I didn't do before. It was
Right.
just strict parenting. And it's an interesting perspective at the same time.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
um,
We say in the opening where it's always happy hour because the nest is empty. I don't think the nest is ever really empty.
I don't think
I
so
think we
either.
need to go back and change that. I think we had this idea in July that we were going to be empty nesters, and the nest is never really empty.
No, there's always something going on, isn't there? Whether it's dogs getting eyes removed, or or kids having problems,
Right.
or parents, right?
Right.
There's always something that is changing
Right.
our at homeness
Right.
and our nests.
I will tell you that I kind of had this idea. I'm a little bit of a black and white person, and I kind of had this idea that like once they got to a certain age, you didn't have to worry about them anymore. Maybe it was naivete, maybe it was just I don't know, unwillingness to face the truth. And I can remember the day. It was the day that we had a meeting at the country club about the Women of Impact thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to a friend whose kids are just a little bit older. One is the same age as Emma and one's a couple years older. So this was in 2020.
It was right before the
January of
pandemic.
20.
Yes.
Yes. And so I don't know how old my kids were at that point, 17 and 15. And I said to Bianca, I never realized that I will never not worry about them.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. I thought when they got to be that age that
It was going to be easy.
Yeah.
Because they can take care of themselves.
Yeah. And no,
No.
we're always going to worry about them.
Yeah. I know it makes me more empathetic towards my own parents too.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
even though we're adults
Right.
talking about our adult
Right.
kids,
Right.
they think the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully you get to a point where it's not worry, but it's just that general like, oh, what are they doing? I hope
Yeah.
everything's okay. And you don't have to spend so much of your headspace trying to think about how are we going to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that's a really hard place to be. And I think that knowing from my experience how much of your bandwidth that
Yeah.
takes up.
It's almost like your whole being
Yeah.
when it's at the inflection point that it's currently
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
You cannot function without thinking about it at all
Yeah.
times.
Well,
And right, that's not to make her feel bad.
No,
either.
no, no,
It's just
no.
because that's what we do as parents.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying our best to help.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to know that we're always there.
Yeah.
We're always there. But sometimes it's a lot.
And sometimes they need to know that we're going to push.
Right.
And it's not because we don't love them.
Right.
But
It's because we do love them.
It's because we do.
Right.
It would be really easy for me to give in and
Right.
say, yes, move home.
Right.
That's not the right path for her because
Right.
that it's putting anxiety in the driver's seat, like you said,
Right.
not just in the car.
Right.
Because it's always going to be there.
Right.
There's no getting around that, but how to deal with it in a much healthier way. So,
Yeah. Stop
anyways.
letting anxiety drive the car.
Yeah.
We all need to remember that sometimes.
I know. Right? What did Carolyn say? 99% of things you worry about never happen.
Yeah.
And anxiety is a big part of that. And sometimes you don't even know what you're worried about. It's been hard even to pull out what the major issues are. And that's part of it too. You can't even articulate what is spinning all the time.
Right.
And that is the difficult thing, which is why there are professional therapists that help them do that and not parents.
Right. Right. Yes.
not
And I
trained in
would
that.
say that is such a key thing to have. Parents can only help so much.
Yeah.
To have an objective person who they can say whatever they need to. They can talk shit about their parents too.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yep.
If you can do that for your kid, with your kid, I think that helps so much.
Yeah.
I feel like every kid from, I don't know how old when they're 12 maybe until they're 25 should just have their own therapist.
Right. So how old are fourth graders?
Fourth graders are like 10.
Yeah. So that was when we started with
Yeah.
a therapist at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right. And it's been kind of in and out since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. And that's a thing that people need to understand too.
You don't have to go all the time.
You
for
don't
the
have
rest
to
of your
go all the
life.
time. You don't always have to be on some, what do we call them now? Mood elevating
Yes.
medication.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have to have it. Sometimes you do. And yeah.
There's lots of different reasons to be in and out of that.
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyways, so thanks for listening.
Of course.
And to other parents that are dealing
Yeah.
with this, we feel what
Yeah.
your pain is, and we'll keep you updated on how things are progressing, I guess. Because we keep saying journey. It is. It's back and forth, and yeah, we'll see how things move along. As she I don't know. I don't even know how to close this. It's really personal.
Right.
And I didn't cry, so that's
Right.
good.
I wouldn't let you.
I know. tears all the way around.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's hard and it will be hard, but it will, I hope and I think it will definitely get better.
yeah, it will. And I'm really proud of her for sticking with it
Right.
and understanding why we said also, no, you're not just moving home.
Right.
And
And I think deep down she knows that. She
does.
understands that.
Right. And I don't think she wants to
Right.
move home.
But she just doesn't
She
know
doesn't
what
know
else
what
to do.
yeah,
Right.
doesn't know what else to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. Let's should we switch topics?
Yeah, let's talk
After
about
we just talked about how terrible sometimes it can be for kids in college, but it's not really the case. Not all kids go through this, and some kids will go through ups and downs at
Right.
different points. I would say that probably our seniors are a little bit having anxiety about what life is going to be
Oh
like in
gosh,
just a few months.
Yes, they are.
But here's we did get a listener question that I thought it fit into this discussion that I think we were at this point last year. So let me just read the question because you guys are sending us great stuff. So
Yay, listeners.
yeah. So this is from Kelly. Kelly said, I'm not an empty nester yet, but I am in the middle of preparing for my oldest to go to college, which currently includes waiting for acceptance decisions. Oof. Since you both have dealt with this recently, do you have any advice on how to handle the ups and downs of college acceptances? And then how do we begin to prepare for what comes next?
So we're all over the map on this because our
Yes.
first two kids were doing this during COVID.
Yep.
And so I think the choices that they made were a little bit influenced by that.
Yes. Right, because it was test optional because not all the kids were able to
that's
even
right.
take an SAT or ACT.
Right.
Everything changed. They really didn't have grades
Right.
their second semester of their senior
Oh,
year.
Lord, what a mess that was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So our oldest two, Ricky only applied.
He applied to 2 schools.
Uh-huh.
He got into Illinois, which is really the only school he wanted to go
Yeah.
to. And then he applied to Michigan and was waitlisted and then withdrew once he
Yeah.
got the Illinois acceptance.
And Emma applied at Butler, Drake, William and Mary.
I didn't know she did William and Mary.
Yeah, she did. And I think she got like waitlisted or something. Where else maybe Vanderbilt, and I don't think she got into Vanderbilt. But I think she knew Butler was really our only visit.
Yeah.
And Butler was like a fake visit. It was like, oh, we've got to get this figured out. And I guess it wasn't our only visit, but we've got to get this figured out. Let's just do a practice visit because she wanted to be at a Midwest school, state capital, so a city, private liberal arts school that had a good journalism poli-sci program. So I was
Yep.
like, okay, so you could go to Drake in Des Moines or you could go to Butler in Indianapolis, and Drake is 5.5 hours and Butler is 2 hours. So I said, let's just go to Butler and do a tour. And this was on February 25th or so,
goodness.
2020.
Uh-huh.
So, like 2 weeks later, the world was shutting down.
Yep.
So I think that she did that Butler tour and was like, oh, this will work.
I remember when you guys I think we saw you that day.
Yeah.
You may have come in for dinner
Yeah.
after, and she loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember her like, oh, it was so cool. I think that's where I want to go.
Yeah. And then we did one other tour at Augustana, which was on March 13th.
Oh my
2020,
goodness.
which was the day that we found out that, okay, we're all done here.
Yeah.
That was a terrible tour. And I don't know if it was because of the world events or, but whatever. But so she got in and she was, I think, waitlisted maybe at William and Mary. And so there was no question. Like she knew, just like Ricky, she was like, this is where I'm going to go. I know
Yeah.
where I'm going to go. And then with Murphy,
Oh my goodness. She applied to like 11 different
oh
schools.
my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah. But some of them were just like
That
she would take
common
backup.
app,
It's the common app because they can
just
just
apply
click.
everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have to do the extra work.
Right.
Now, There were several that we did
You
a
did have to do
lot of
extra work
extra.
for.
Illinois was one of them. They just got on the Common App, but they required a couple of extra
Yeah.
things. She had decided that her dream school was Georgetown, and the amount of work that we put into getting her into Georgetown, and she actually got in, but then decided that that was not
Yeah.
going to be the right thing
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
But
Which
writing,
kudos for her,
yes.
because I think if she had gone to Georgetown, she wouldn't have made it through the first semester.
Yeah, I don't think so either, unless I would have bought an apartment in DC and then
Which would have been
commuted.
okay.
I
Yeah.
know. Then she could have moved in with me there, and that would have been a whole different
Yeah.
situation, but that's
Yeah.
not good either.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think so here I was thinking about this, and I wish I had had this advice last year. This is their stuff, and this is their decisions, and it's them that have to ride the wave of acceptance and rejection.
Right.
And my goodness, for some of us, we put a ton of work into getting them into those schools that they really wanted to, whether it's flying across the country or whatever it is, but it is them.
Right. It is. It is. And with Bess, she applied at a bunch of places. Her goal in the process was to apply to and be accepted at more schools than her sister.
Okay. And she did that.
And she did successfully. And so, and it was funny because through her process, there were a couple schools, maybe we only visited one where she's like, nope, nope. And that was the first school she was accepted at.
Okay.
And she was like, nope, not going there. And then we went on a tour at another school, and she was like, I love this school. This is where I want to go. And she got accepted. And that part of the reason she wanted to go there was because the day that we went on the tour, they were like, oh, and we've accepted you.
Oh, well, what a nice way to enter campus and to know that they've already chosen you.
Right. And then she had a couple of other schools that she was interested in. And for her, it was down to like the last day that she finally made her choice. And it was, she did apply at the University of Illinois and did not get accepted. And that was sort of, for a minute, she was kind of upset about that. But then I think she realized maybe that wasn't really, I think my motivation there wasn't necessarily the program or whatever. And I don't think that would have been a great choice for her anyway. But I also know that having a 17 or 18-year-old making the choice, they don't really know what criteria they're using. They don't really know. I mean, the way I chose my school was the distance from my home.
Right.
And because the weekend that my father and I went there on our first tour, it was like the huge party weekend of the school. And I was like, well, this looks great. So this is where I'm going to go.
This is where I'm going to go.
And
Look
my
at the
dad was
party.
all in because it was a track school. And I'm not a track person, but he was like, oh, this is cool. They run here. And it was a great school for me anyway.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely right. It's their decision.
It's their decision, and they have to actually deal with rejection.
Right.
And some kids, this might be their first real rejection.
Right.
And it's normal for them to be devastated, and you just have to listen.
And as a parent of college-age students, I think that there is not enough emphasis with kids on choosing a school that fits you.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on this is a great school, this is where you should go. And there are a lot of really good schools out there that may not have the name recognition of Yale or University of Illinois, but the experience that you have there is so much more tailored to you or unique or whatever. I am a huge proponent of small schools, especially for kids who are hesitant about this big life choice. The people at small schools, the staff and faculty, are so much more connected with students and so like more their focus is really getting kids to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that the big schools, while that's great, you're getting a great opportunity, great experiences, whatever. If you don't have kind of the inner motivation and the inner confidence to work through that, I think that can be really hard.
Yeah.
And I think I probably should have gone to an even smaller school because somebody would have been like, "Hey, we haven't seen Amy in class for a while. Maybe we should email her," right?
Be like, hey, we need you to show up.
Right.
We know you're having a great time.
Right. But like both of my kids are at smaller schools. Emma's is 5,000 students, maybe including like grad school, which is the size of school that I went to. And Best is like 1,500. And just, I mean, the opportunities that you have in those size schools are so important and
Yeah.
so meaningful and so valuable. And it's a different worldview. It's not the view of I have to go to this school to get this degree so that I can be successful. My worldview is go to college to expand your horizons to become the person that you are, and who you meet along the way and the things that you do are really important. And hopefully there will be a job waiting for you sometime. But those 4 years, you get to be a person that you don't ever really get to be in the rest of your life.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're in those 4 years
Yes.
to remember that too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are stressing out, who are waiting for those letters or emails or however going into the
Portals.
portal, yeah, know that it'll work or it won't,
Yeah.
and it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. And what you think is right for them, that they
Right.
might, and you might be right in the end,
Right.
but it's not your decision to
Right.
make.
Right.
And to let them feel all the feels.
And you're saying, "But I'm paying for it."
Right.
Yes, that is true. Or, I need you to go to this school because you got a really good scholarship there or whatever. But they have to be in a place that is right for them.
Yeah. Yep.
So good luck, everybody.
I know it's really tough. And then right, because we'll wrap this up after this, but sometimes they get in their head, like they start to think of themselves already living in the place. And when they don't get it, that changes their whole
Right.
future that they've laid
Right.
out for themselves. So again, let them feel that feel, but then, then
Yeah.
you start talking through what the next thing is going to be. And then you can start laying the groundwork
Right.
for what that is.
And talk about what are the great things about this school or whatever.
Yes.
That's why I always worried. This is a weird thing, but I always worried when we went. I mean, we didn't go on college trip. I don't even know if we bought sweatshirts. I always feel like, oh, are you like tempting fate when you buy a sweatshirt
Yeah.
at a college that the kid really likes that they're not going to get in there? And then they're going to be like, oh yeah, this Harvard sweatshirt or whatever. I don't know. I worry. I think that's a really interesting thing that they loved that dorm and they saw those kids doing that thing. And if they don't get into that school, it can be really disappointing.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. But then as a parent, I think it's your job to talk up, but look at this and think
Yeah.
about this thing. So, yeah.
And nobody wants to, I shouldn't say that. Any relationship, even college relationships, both people should want it. And so if the school says this is not the right fit,
Right.
it's not the right
Right.
fit, and there's a reason for
Right.
it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And why would you want to be at a place that doesn't want you?
Yeah. Yeah. Easier said than done
Yeah.
sometimes. But okay, so we are heavy on the parenting and college
We are.
talk
Oh my
today.
gosh, what experts we are.
Whew, it's a lot, and empty nesting along with this is a lot too. So even though Kelly, you've got your oldest going, you're beginning the process also of becoming an empty nester, and we wish you all the luck, and
Yes.
your kid all the luck too. And get ready.
Yep.
You've got a lot of months of preparation
Oh,
before
gosh.
you drop them off at the dorm, and then they might want to come home a few days later.
And you know what? I consciously, a lot of times, especially with my younger daughter, like I felt like all we talked about was college for the last
my
6
gosh.
months before they left. And I
Oh.
tried really hard sometimes to be like, there are other things in the world. And often, that's the first thing that people ask when you're out, like, "Oh,
Oh,
where are
yep.
you thinking of going? What?" And it gets really old.
Yeah.
And it's hard because they're trying to get through their senior year of high school and, wrap things up there, and all anybody can focus on is where you're gonna go
We're
to
going to go to school.
college.
Yeah.
Cut them some slack, folks.
Yep. Okay. Let's lighten things up a little
Yay,
bit. Should
okay.
we do our cheers to that?
Yes, what are we cheersing to?
Well, I know I've got a fun one.
I had one that I thought of and I didn't write it down, so we'll just let it go. My cheers to that is the same as yours, I think.
Well, right. So we, okay. I love award shows. Love that. I watch E for hours to
Uh-huh.
watch the,
I didn't even know they still do that.
oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, wow.
You got to watch them get out of the car and the publicists and all
Yeah.
the fun things. Um, Anyways, the Grammys is my least favorite because I don't listen to new music.
Yeah.
But this year's Grammys, I knew all the music. It was an incredible show. They did a fantastic job of straddling doing a fundraiser for the California wildfires, as well as actually celebrating all these people that a lot of them live in LA. And it was an incredible show, an incredible award. All the awards I thought were well given out.
Mhm.
And so my cheers is to the Grammys.
Well, my cheers is to the Grammys as well, and I wanna talk about a little bit about how the Grammys was in trouble in 2018 because they were too white and too male, and whoever was in charge of the Grammys at the time said some things about, "Well, if the women worked harder, maybe they'd get more Grammys,"
Mhm.
which, "Okay, mister."
Right?
That was the end of him, and they brought in a new guy, and they've expanded the voting pool
Yeah, it's like
for the 13,000
13,000.
now, and it's much more diverse, and I think what that has resulted in is a much more sort of energetic and youthful and diverse Grammys,
Yeah.
which actually, I think, kind of reflects the world that we live in.
Yep.
And it actually, I was thinking about this. It made me think about, wow, if our like actual political voting pool and our candidates reflected the world a little bit better, maybe we'd all be a little bit more energized because the
Yeah.
Grammys just looked, it was great.
It was
It
fun.
was. And like you, like I'm a music person and I always try to be in tune with the Grammys. For several years, it's been kind of I haven't been that into it, but
No.
like you said, like I knew all the music last whenever it was Sunday night.
Yeah.
Um, and Beyonce finally won Album of the Year
And for a great album.
and Country
And
Album of the
country.
Year.
Yes.
That was fantastic. And then Chappell Roan was like
Oh,
insanely good, and she won Best New Artist, I
best new
believe.
artist.
But they did the montage of all the best new artists, and they were all great. That Ray, I think her name is,
Yes.
she was I don't know her, but I'm gonna go find her now.
Yep.
Um, it was really good, and like you said, the way that they were able to kind of pay tribute to LA and all of the people who have suffered in the wildfires, but not bring down the ceremony was
Right.
really good, and to highlight those local businesses, it was exceptionally well done,
It was very well
and
done.
a lot of times I've not been impressed with the Grammys, so
No,
kudos to the Grammys, and of course, all those women artists.
you called that.
Yeah, I mean, it was really the year of women artists. Doechii,
Oh my gosh. What a great acceptance speech.
yes, and her
And her
performance.
performance was spectacular.
Yes, and because I am an old, I did text my children during the ceremony when they were doing all the best new artist performances, and I said, "Hello, young people. What is a Benson Boone and why?" If you watched the Grammys, he was the young man with the mullet and the I'm
He
so
looked like Ricky.
I'm so t yeah, I was just gonna say, no offense to your son, but I'm so tired of the wispy mustache.
I sent him a note and I was like, "You need to be Benson Boone for Halloween
Yeah, oh my
because you
god.
look just like
He
him."
had on a pale blue sparkly pantsuit, and he was doing flips all over the place, and my girls they both responded to me immediately, and Emma was like, "Oh, yeah, so and so loves him. He's kind of like a Harry Styles," and who was the other one that she said? Mashup, And then Best texts back, "Don't worry, Mom, we don't like him."
Oh, as I knew like every word to that song.
Well, I've heard that song a million
I
times. I had no
know.
idea that this Benson Boone person was the
Yep.
yeah. So, yeah, and then Lady Gaga's big ad.
Oh my gosh, Abracadabra. She's going
Yeah.
back to like house music.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah. So it
And
was
the Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, the Mamas and Papas, California Dreamin'. Oh,
okay.
it was so, I loved it. You don't,
Her
I could see something different. Her hair.
it was fine. Her hair drove me crazy, and whatever she was doing at the microphone stand, like,
Yeah.
okay, Lady Gaga, you're Lady Gaga, you just go ahead and do it. But those 2 and their voices, I mean, they belt and they
Yes.
belted.
And they belted. Oh, it was so good.
But the other, one other thing, oh, now I just lost it. What was it? Something about the Grammys? Oh, I know what it was. I was not impressed with the Quincy Jones.
No, Will Smith.
Yeah, I don't need to see Will Smith. And I understand Quincy Jones produced Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Yeah.
but I don't need to see Will Smith. In an
Yeah.
award show. That brings back dark memories. But also I felt like, who sang? Oh, Cynthia Erivo sang, um, "Fly Me to the Moon."
Yes.
Yes, which okay, the connection there was Quincy Jones produced Frank Sinatra's version of "Fly Me to the Moon." It was too far.
Yeah.
Like, there are 100 other artists that Quincy Jones produced that they could have had actually sing
Sing.
their songs
Yeah.
at the Grammys, and I understand they were trying to, like Quincy Jones had this huge career from jazz all the way up through, I don't even know, New Order. Um, but I just felt like it was not it didn't give me enough Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
And Stevie Wonder was great, but where was Lionel Richie?
Well, I wondered the same thing.
Yeah.
It seemed like it kind of came together at the last minute and nobody was,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was the one downfall.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one.
So, yeah.
I also, there's a few clips, especially after Beyonce won Album of the Year. You can just see in the audience all the women
Yeah.
artists
Yeah.
that were ecstatic for
Yeah.
her and jumped out of their seats, and women supporting women was all over that show,
And
and
that's
I
the
loved
way
it.
it is, and that's the way it should
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I was impressed. So, my cheers to that, in addition to the Grammys, is we talked about this, I think, last week. You need, if you are interested in music at all, especially a little bit older music, go watch the Saturday Night Live 50 Years of Music special. Danielle said, "Hey, you should watch that." I watched it Friday night. I was literally lying on the couch yelling about how much I loved this. The first 7 minutes of the show, and if you don't wanna watch the whole thing, just watch the first 7 minutes. Questlove, a freaking national treasure. I would say, I'm just gonna say it because I've had almost an entire martini. Sorry, Mom, I know you don't like it when I say this. He's a fucking national treasure. He is so smart. He knows music so well. He put together this montage of clips from live Saturday Night Live that mixes and mashes the most insane things. It's fantastic. It's literally one of the best pieces of art I've ever seen.
You know what? We will re-thread it. I don't know how you say that. And we'll make sure if you haven't seen it, if you're on Threads, we'll put it up so you can watch it on our Threads account.
It is amazing. And so cheers to Questlove, who there are very few people who are famous that I would want to hang out with, but Questlove,
Yeah.
Questlove, if you listen to our podcast,
Yes. You have so much time to listen to Empty Nest Midlife Women.
we're the same age.
Yes, right. You could be dealing with kids with anxiety.
Right. It blew me away. I must have watched that thing half a dozen times, and I will watch the whole show over again. It's
Yeah.
so good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So yes,
So cheers
music.
to music.
Yeah, it was great. And then the next show, I think, is the Oscars. It's coming up.
Oh gosh. I don't know if I've seen what are the Oscar
The big
Best
ones.
Picture nominees? The Brutalist.
Yeah, Conclave has got a lot of them.
Yeah. I think A Complete Unknown.
Yeah,
Baby Girl was not nominated for Best Picture, I don't
not
believe.
shocking. It shouldn't have been.
Yeah. So
We'll talk about that as we get a
Yeah.
little bit closer, because I think that there's a lot of them are available right now. Wicked got a lot more nominations that they did for the Golden Globes
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Should we do our Bravo winners
Yes.
and
Winners and losers. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
This is a little controversial. I have no idea what you're going to say. My Bravo winner is Jenna Lyons' reunion outfit.
Jenna Lyons is going to Jenna Lyons.
It was, to me, I watched Jenna Lyons because I want to see fashion. And the robe and the turban was fashion.
Well, and Jenna Lyons does this thing where she's part of the show, but she's not.
Yep.
And I felt like this was kind of like okay, Andy, this is, she got in trouble for wearing jeans on the first reunion.
Correct. But that was also her.
Right? Right. I mean,
That's her fashion.
That's her whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was just like, I'm just going to, and, she can get away with it because she's Jenna fucking Lyons.
Yep. That's exactly right. She can do whatever she wants.
Uh-huh.
And she did defend it. So she did take it from a stylist who wore a white towel and robe at Paris Fashion Week.
Oh, really?
And she reached out to the stylist and said, "You were iconic. Can I steal this?"
I love that.
Yeah.
But I love that she did it in black.
And she did it in black and not white.
Yeah.
So yeah, fantastic. So that was, first of all, and all the New York ladies showed up in beautiful outfits. They all looked great.
Yeah, they really did.
Best dressed I think I've seen for any of them.
Yeah, this is not a winner or loser, but how do we feel about Becky Minkoff not coming back?
Thank God.
At the end of her segment on the reunion, where no one was even like, "Oh, bye, Becky." They didn't even say goodbye.
No, she was terrible. Okay, so that is a little bit of my loser.
Okay,
here's my loser. My loser was Meredith Marks and Rebecca Minkoff.
Okay.
Well, first, Meredith, she did the whole thing that Kyle did. I'm done. But she didn't even take a step away.
Right.
If you're going to be done, enough with that.
Danielle, if I ever say that, you just need to say, Amy, that no. When people say, I'm done. Wow, no, you're not.
Right. All you're
just
doing is
waiting.
threatening so that we can be like, oh, we want you.
Yes, no.
None of that. Meredith was so mad because Angie called her out for renting her house in Salt Lake City. And then Andy was like, but don't you rent your house? And she was like, yes, but I didn't like the tone. And the same thing with Rebecca Minkoff.
Oh, the tone.
She was like, I didn't like your tone. No, you all were trying to not have information about yourselves on the show. And when people said it, because you're on a reality show, they didn't like it. I'm sorry, Rebecca Minkoff, you are in Scientology and you don't like that people call it whatever it is.
Right.
A cult.
Right.
I have my own feelings.
It's a cult.
It's cult. I'm sorry. That's just the way that it is. And you tried to get your brand out there so that you could sell more bags, and it backfired. And guess what? You're probably going to lose a lot more business than you thought you were going to get.
Right. I wasn't going to buy a Rebecca Minkoff bag anyway, and now I'm sure not.
Really not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when she walked away and
they were like, oh, okay.
Nobody even acknowledged her.
That was so weird. So awkward. And she was like, do I leave now? And they were just like,
yes, you're done. You were here for 2 minutes. Thank you. Goodbye.
And then I don't know if it was like, was it after the show that it was announced that she was not coming back?
Yes.
Or was it? Oh.
I saw it after last night's reunion.
Okay. I think I had seen hints of it before, but she released something about how she was going to spend more time with her kids and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
She got fired.
Hi, Becky.
How about yours?
Okay. So my winner is Bose on Beverly Hills. She's new this season, and she is, once again, I love a housewife who's a little bit in it, but a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
And so her reactions to conversations that she's had throughout the season have just been fantastic. Just the way she says, ooh.
Uh-huh. Oh.
There's so much in that. And last night, when they were at Kathy Hilton's for her Capri dinner,
Oh gosh.
And Kathy Hilton said, well, I'm Chinese from 3000 BC or
Oh
something.
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Her face, Bose's face, and then Bose's reaction when Kathy said she thought that PK,
Yeah.
was 56 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And Bose just leaned over to Erica
Erica.
and was like, that's the shadiest shade I've ever heard.
Right?
Bose is fantastic. And she's been kind of in the middle of things and
Yeah,
asking
she
questions
stirs
that
the
other people do.
pot.
And
Mhm.
she gets away with it really well. I hope that she continues to be able to have that kind of influence and character because I think she's great.
Yeah.
And so Bose is my winner. But my other winner is the divorce counseling that is happening on many different franchises of Real
There's a
Housewives.
lot.
So on Potomac, Stacy is in the middle of a
Yep.
divorce, and Ashley's perpetually in the middle of a divorce.
Yes.
And the counseling that Giselle and Ashley, anybody else, were giving Stacy. Stacy is making some bad decisions, I think, as
I
far
think
as
so
her
too.
divorce is
Yeah.
concerned. But that, and then the talking to that Erica gave Dorit last night,
That was real. That
it
was
was
they
real.
forgot that the cameras were there.
Yes. And when she was like, well, Dorit said something about, well, maybe, I don't know about getting back together. And Erica said, he's done.
Yeah.
He's done. And you need to deal with that. And you need to get yourself in order.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a shit show because I don't think that there's really anything there.
I don't think there's anything there either.
Yeah. So poor Dorit's going to need to.
I know. And the fact that he's divorcing her before the 10 years, which
Yes.
apparently he did with his first wife also.
Oh, wow.
I read that somewhere
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
as I was getting ready to come here. And yeah,
Wow. So, yeah, looking to the Real Housewives for divorce counseling is interesting. That's a winner. And then my loser was Stacey's dog show on Potomac.
there's so much dog poop.
And it was so overdramatic. And it was so like the whole thing was just like, what is this even about? Like, we're going to borrow these dresses from this woman and they're far too fancy for this event. And then there's topless bartenders and acrobats and smoke and dogs pooping and Karen retching into a garbage can. It was just such a literal shit show.
Literal.
And like, what is going? Oh, and that doesn't even embrace the TJ of it all.
I know, right? That guy.
Yeah. So that's my loser. Like, wow.
Yeah,
I don't
that
need
was a good one.
I don't need to see that anymore.
Yep. No, ever again. Right. And don't have like a flash of light and all this smoke come towards these
Right.
poor dogs.
Right. Those
Of
oh
course they
God.
poop themselves.
Yes. Yeah. What a disaster.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've said it all tonight.
We've talked a lot about a lot of things.
A lot of things. A lot of things.
Ups
One
and
thing I did
downs.
want to say is we have a new newsletter out and we have a lot of original content in the newsletter. We put all of our January reads and books in it. So if people want the newsletter, you can sign up on our website.
I'm going to break the fourth wall here and say there is no newsletter yet, but Danielle is planning for it to be done by the time
It's
you hear
halfway
this.
done. It's going to be done and it will already be
I
out.
love your
so.
optimism, Danielle.
But we have content that we couldn't get to on the podcast that is going to be in there. So it'll be worth your while to actually get it. It won't just be a recap of what we talked about.
Excellent. Oh, good. I've been hoping for
right.
that.
Thanks for breaking that for. That's our little magic. If I say it out loud, that means
That's
I have
right. You're
held accountable.
manifesting it. You
That's
are
right.
manifesting it. Except that Mel Robbins says you can't manifest it by just saying it. You have to manifest it and then actually do the
Do
work.
it.
So we'll do the work.
It's halfway done. So it's already in the works. It just isn't quite totally published and sent out yet.
I love it. I have a hard time with the space-time continuum where the podcasts are concerned because we tape, record, whatever, and then it comes out like a week later. And that confuses me to no end.
Yeah.
So
We've
anyway.
got several days. It'll be out.
All right. So we also want to remind you that we are reading Sandwich for February. And on our February 25th episode, we'll be talking about it, which means we're recording it on the
18th.
18th.
18th?
17th.
I don't know. Whatever the Tuesday
That's
is.
crazy
before
space
or
time
Wednesday. I don't
continuum.
know.
Who knows?
I don't know what
Anyway,
day it is.
it's so good. And we've already seen that several of our friends have said, yes, I've got the book, or I'm listening to it on audio. Really, you need to read it. If you felt seen when you were listening to the discussion that we had earlier in this podcast, you will feel seen when you read this book.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It is. It's very much on point with what we're all dealing with right now.
100%. So I think that's it.
Yep.
Did we do it?
I think we did it.
We did it. Good for us. All right. We will talk to you next week. In the meantime, you can go find that newsletter that Danielle's furiously typing right now. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to producer Aunt Lizzie, who's off to Spain this week.
Yes.
Wow,
Last
she's
minute.
so fancy. Don't forget, you can contact us at info@emptynesthappyhour.com. We'd love to hear how you're dealing with your empty nest, or your not so empty nest, or your sometimes empty and not empty nest, whatever, or just your drink recommendations. Follow us on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Empty Nest Happy Hour. And of course, rate and recommend us on your favorite podcast. We have a perfect 5 rating on Apple Podcasts because I think we have 1 rating. So it would be great to have your ratings and your little stars there. Go do it.
Yeah.
Come on. What's stopping you? So that's it for us for this week. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Cheers.